one. I'm going to turn that light off because that's a bit stark, isn't it? And welcome to Hobby Hangout, basically. It's not really a Monday musing because I've got so much to do in terms of getting ready for the doubles tournament that I'm just getting on with the doubles tournament. And I'm hoping that the microphone's working and there's not too much of a delay. There definitely looks like there is a delay again, so I hope not, but let me know if there's a problem. And we're just going to get on with the show, really. And I'm going to be chatting about what I need to get done before the end of the before the end of the week, because the tournament is on, kicking all the stuff out of the way, the tournament is on Saturday, and so far of my entire army I've got exactly no models painted, or at least complete. So there's paint on models, but that's as far as it gets, which is a little bit of a concern. I have a backup plan, and the backup plan is my Iden of Deepkin, so it's highly likely you'll Iden of Deepkin, my Fire Slayers, instead of my Iden of Deepkin. We'll see. All I can do is try and get as much done as possible. Let's catch up with what's who and what is in the chat, and at the same time I'd love to know what you guys are working on as well, so let me know. Right, who have we got in the chat? Thordalim. Might be a bit early. See you in a few. Got there nice and early. Coleman saying hey up. Patrick is around saying hello to Coleman. A lot of nice are you prepared, Patrick? That's the question in hand. And apparently you're waiting for some feedback from Rachel. I'm not quite sure what that's about. Even so, the new battle tome is not in play. Oh, bless you, Patrick. Never mind. Rachel's army. Yes. Well, Jack/Rachel's got to finish that off soon. And what else have we got going off? Let me see. Right, a lot of talk about new rules coming into play before the tournament gets started. What can we do about that? Nothing. Let's just get on with it. The main issue is, I think, is missions are coming in and those kind of things, which, you know, that's a little bit, adds some complexity to it. So I've not had a chance to play any of the new missions yet. Oh, no, I tell a lie. We've played one of the new missions. And where are we now? Demon Lizard from Outer Space is saying hello. Who else have we got in there? Furious George is saying hi. And Coleman's there. You should play Fire Slayers anyway. Last chance before they get nerfed. I assume you're talking about the pending FAQ. Yeah, well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see. Do you think they'll get nerfed? I don't think they will. I think you're overstating it, Coleman. I'm reaching across here to pick up some models so we can talk about what I'm working through at the moment. Oh my goodness. Let's grab that one as well. Why not? Do you want to have a look at what I'm working on while you guys are settling in for the show? Demon Lizard from Outer Space is working on scenery, 40k and generic fantasy/medieval. Nice. Also bringing dwarfs gives you opportunity for sing traditional songs. Oh, I'm not going there, seriously. Right, okay, let's have a look at what's on my desk and we can talk through it. So my list has changed somewhat over the few days. Let me see if I zoom in a little bit there for you. And I'm not, excuse the mess of the desk, but it just is what it is. So I have got a unit of 6 eels that are currently in production. And this is sporting my 3D printed terrain. So this is using my little Anycubic resin printer. And the reason I've done that is I wanted to mirror Marafi's base. So if you give me a second. Where are you, Marafi? There you are. So this is Jack's Marafi. Handsome that she is, and she was on this twisted column base. So the idea was, look, as you can see, she's also got fish swimming around the bottom, is to base the army on common theme. So Jack's daughters are on the kind of watery, sandy base, and at the same time, as you can see, the sand and the water continues, although this isn't finished yet. Obviously, the little fish swimming along, and then I've been working on these 3D printed corals. 3D printed corals, columns to mimic Marafi's column. So that took some work, so I actually had to sculpt that. I managed to get a single twisted column, and then I replicated it and overlapped it and built this base up around it. Is how I did that. Oh, what else have we got to do? Right, yes, we have this one to finish off. So this is Voltornos, and again, this is on the giant Marafi S column, so this has all been sculpted. And again, obviously trying to mirror mirror Marafi's column. So as you can see, the back of my column, the back of hers, it's not exactly the same. It's not meant to be exactly the same. And then even more worryingly, I actually got the twist in the wrong direction. But you know, what are you going to do? Can't complain, can you, really? So there you go. The idea is that these two stand side by side, heading into battle. That was the plan anyway. Although with the recent points changes, it looks like Marafi might not be coming along, in which case Volturnos is just showing up anyway. So there's my Volturnos in progress. There's my eels, 6 of those in progress. And here are the pilots for those. And then, last minute change, there was 20 thralls. I'm going to get one of the thralls just so you can see it. So this is the thrall I've been working on. I'm going to, you know what, if I raise that up a bit and then turn the light on, hopefully it won't upset the camera so much, but you can get an idea. There you go. So my sort of pearlescent armour, as you can see, the idea was it's like mother of pearl. So that's what they're looking like. And again, they are only really base colours and a first dab at a highlight just to kind of get them ready for the game, or at least that was the original plan. Except of course what happened was I realised there was no room for my thralls. And why was there no room for the thralls? Well, they didn't play too well, to be honest. If I'm going to be bluntly honest with you, the list, I think the problem was is myself and Jack was essentially showing up with 1,000. Wow, how have I done that? We were showing up with 1,000 points each of models that were very, very similar armies, and it didn't quite work. We were kind of both compromised because we were both glass hammers, so we needed to do something to balance the armies out a bit. And Jack's list, weren't too keen on changing that Jack's list because he's fast and nimble and really good at grabbing objectives to a degree. But he's good late game rather than early game. So we had to think about how can I make my army better in early game, basically. So that was the attempt. To that end, then, we took the thralls out and introduced 2 more units of the Ishlan Guard, which is the alternative build on the eels. So these guys are the guys with the spears. That's who's going on the eels. And then the Ishlan Guard are the guys with the swords. So as you can see, there's 2 units of 3 there. The other one is a unit of 6. So 2 units of 3. But Luke, who's somewhere out there in the world, basically is working on this weird army conversion where he's using... he's posted some stuff up, so it's not a secret or anything. He's working on a combination of Iden of Deepkin and... I don't know, Nighthaunt, something like that, the ghosty ones anyway, and he's combined them into this really cool army. To that end, he needed some eels, but he didn't need the riders. I ended up with some riders and no eels, so I started dagging around the bits box to see what I could find, and I got a box of, here we go, a box of these things, which are like hydras, and oh my goodness me, there you go. So a couple of hydras, you can see that one's had its neck removed. There's another one there as well. So you know, and what I worked out was if I could take the hydras and have like 2 necks, I could do, there's no avoiding it, it's essentially a sea serpent Loch Ness monster. So that is what I've been working on, and if we can cut to that, there you go. So here are my sea serpent Iden of Deepkin. Now there's been quite a bit of work going into these, which was a bad idea because I'm so close to the tournament, but I've had to pretty much sculpt these saddles out of green stuff, so they're not brilliant. But the good news is the models, I'm not going to show that because I'd have to break my models off their little stands, but the models hide most of this detail, and anything else I've kind of covered with little ropes and stuff like that. But as you can see, this is again using the twisted column in there. So that's one. There's one that is the, there you go, that's the actual standard. And the idea is they're kind of like, almost like sandworms. They're flying through the sand. There's going to be water effects splashing about and those kind of things. And I've just started getting some base colours onto the coral next to that one. So as you can see, that's one neck. Then that's another neck reversed, so it starts off thick and gets thinner. And I kind of didn't mind that because the scales are kind of, there's no real direction to it. The only thing is the spikes kind of go forward and back. But you know what, they kind of change direction anyway, so I wasn't too worried about the spines facing forward. And then it goes into, as it gets thinner, the idea is it kind of goes down here and does another loop or something and comes back up as the tail, basically. So that's it. So I've got 2 units of 3 of those that I've just finished sculpting tonight. One of them is a bit dodgy, which is this one. It's not great because I'm actually going to be cutting this off. This is just there in case the part doesn't show up on time, but I'll be cutting the back of this saddle off and mounting the top of that to it because I've got another banner on the way from a bit site, basically, because that was the only thing I didn't have. I had everything else I needed, and I gave Luke my banner. So there you go, leaving my really short. So where are we at? Seriously, I hope HBZ go up, the rest a bit down. I've no idea what that means. I like the one gold. Working on some Flesh Eater Courts, says Sean Blake. Can't talk tonight. That army was better. Bring you back some trophies. They look stunning. Thank you very much. Maybe the twist in opposite directions because they were opposite sides of whatever structure they were in. Nice. Oh, yeah. Good excuse. Thank you very much. And Demon Lizard says, always nice to see a nicely based mini. Anyone remember Goblin Green bases with dry brush grass effect around the 1990s? You can't beat that. So there you go. That's where I'm at. What I was going to do tonight, while I'm chatting away on the chat, if there's anybody there, is I was just going to get on with some hobby, basically, for half an hour or so, or maybe longer. Oh, there's the other thing I'm working on as well. Crikey, let's just park him over there next to Marafi. He can go over there. So I've been running these out through my 3D printer. Here we go. So, oh right, how do I do this? That. So there you go. This is what I've been running out from my 3D printer. And the idea of these is, these are just some little GIFs for the players we go up against. So we go up against 5 teams, the 2 members to each team. So I've 3D printed 10 of these and a couple of spares to go with, so we can use them ourselves. And I'm going to give them a quick spray because they look nice in like silver and gold and those kind of things. But essentially, for those of you who don't realise what that is, it's a battle gauge. So that's 3 inches, that's 2 inches, 1 inch, and ½ inch, which of course is all relevant for Age of Sigmar. You've got to charge and get within ½ inch of a model. Unless you're intending to go into combat, you need to keep more than 3 inches away. Most weapons have 1 or 2, and in some instances a 3-inch range. So it's all the kind of measurements you need for combat. So there you go. That's what I've been working on. And what I was going to do is just print some extras and do a funny little giveaway for those as well, because you know, some people might like some WGO combat gauges, basically. Who knows? So there you go. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I like that. That's good fun. You know, they're only made out of the 3D printed resin, but that makes them nice and light. You can kind of demonstrate. You can drop them on the model and they don't kill the model, which is always a bonus, isn't it? And they are millimeter perfect, which is strange to use the word millimeter when you're actually talking about inches. And Frost and Fist says, hey there, beautiful people. They're awesome, Phil. Nice gifts. Thank you very much, Frost and Fist. How are you? Who have I got there? Have I got Freecol Methos? Be one or the other, won't it? So let me know. I always like to know which one of the Frosts and which one of the Fists I'm talking to. So there you go. That's what I'm working on. I thought I need to decide the colour. We would love some. There you go. Well, there you go. We'll definitely do a giveaway. You know what? I'm going to send one out to every premium member. There we are. That's what I'm going to do. So you get premium membership, you get 1 battle gauge. Battle gauge, there you go, 1 battle gauge. And I'll send one out to every premium member that's currently in existence. So that should be fun. That'll keep the printer humming for a bit. So here you go. One thing about these proxies, I'm always concerned that they occupy the same footprint. I mean, the reality is the game is based around the base anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. But as you can see, what I was attempting to do was to make sure from a footprint point of view, you know, from a height and depth point of view, you can see the saddles are almost exactly the same height. So that was the main thing as well. I wanted them to look radically different, but at the same time, you know, fit in with the shape and size of the army, rather than getting my knickers in a twist over different scaling. Tonight, I am just going to be pottering away. Let's get this back up. Oh, wrong one again. That's doing that again, isn't it? I've still not fixed some of the technical issues I've had, by the way, which is somewhat of a concern, but I can't work out what's gone wrong. So it was something to do with an upgrade to the system, and it's caused a problem in the broadcast tool. So who knows? So hopefully, in fact, can you guys tell me, is there a delay to my voice? Because it'd be extremely frustrating if there's a sync issue. Because I don't have a solution to that. There's no reason for what it's doing. Right. Okay, let's get some painting done, maybe. What I was going to do was... I've got these corals. So I've got 4 with corals, and I want to alternate the coral. Yeah, okay, I can do that. What's going off then? Is anybody else working on stuff tonight? I mean, I've seen a couple of stuff, but surely there's more people out there doing hobby, surely. No delay, says Demon Lizard from Outer Space. Well, thank you very much. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is, because this is a coward's approach, by the way. So this is using the new Gryph-hound orange contrast, which I really like, actually. This is the only time I've been using these contrast raw, is on things like this. So I'm just going to double layer that one for a little bit of extra depth to it. There you go. And again, I actually quite like these paints. They're great for stuff like this. I mean, love them or hate them for model painting, but my goodness, they're really great for doing like quick scenery and the basing and stuff. A lot of the army so far has been done with contrast paints, by the way. And as I said, I'm doing this as a delaying tactic, because I've got to decide what colour to do my lizards. The lag creeps in, but refreshing the page helps. Okay, well that sounds like that's more your end than my end then, because that's how your internet works. Okay, if I've got that style in orange, I want to do that style in the alternative colour, which means this guy is going to be orange then. So we'll get this one done. Classic. There you go. A little bit of the banes of having a dog and trying to do hobby. There you go. Right. So, has anybody else been trying out these wonderful paints for speed painting? And if so, what do you think to them? I mean, I dare say most people have got their hands on them by now. I think. I would hope so. I think some people are still waiting for theirs because they've had real issues with popularity, haven't they? As in, everybody has been buying these things. I mean, I love the look at that. It's quite, you know, instant for this, for doing these corals and stuff. I think it looks really nice. But you know, if it goes anywhere, you're in real trouble. I also posted up on one of the Sigmar groups, actually, when I transferred these to dropper bottles. And, you know, for the vast majority of people, kind of got it. But there was a few people that were kind of surprised, actually, sort of saying it's counterintuitive, because the idea is you need to load your brush up. So why put them in dropper bottles? Because you'll just waste paint on your palette. And in most instances, I kind of agree, except it is very rare that I've used these straight out the bottle. So on these super strengths, I've definitely done that. But for skin tones and stuff like that, I've got different mixing ratios. So for the Eidenhof skin, I have been using one of them. I think, let me see if I can find it. It's one of the greys. So, have we got here? Gryph Charger Grey. And I've been watering that down, you know, on a 1-to-1 ratio. There was some stuff I was doing earlier in the week that actually had a 3-to-1 ratio between the medium and the contrast paint. So dropping it on your palette enables you to kind of do that consistent mix. Plus, I don't like, no matter how careful you are with your brushes, I think dipping back into the pot and stuff, you can get cross-contamination, especially on a paint system that you load up, because it goes right up into the bristles and, you know, I don't know, you don't always get that stuff out. So I like the idea. I'd rather just not have that cross-contamination basically as well. There you go. That looks like fun. Nice big, ooh, check out my coral. Is anybody else a Walking Dead fan? Coral. Okay, I'll tell you what. We've got to do those two now, so we'll come back to that. Oh dear. Oh, Dylan RK. I wonder what you said. Wasn't paying attention, but you've been hidden now. Can't have been too pleasant. Right. Furious George. I'm not keen on the purples and the pinks, but they don't seem to come up vivid enough for me. They look much better in the pot. Okay. Yeah, you know, I've not tried the purples actually, or the pinks. Only tried them on Space Marines, didn't like it on them. We'll try it on more textured minis. Yeah, they definitely come into their own on more textured minis. I mean, I'm planning on doing them on this. There's two different areas to these models. You've got, you know, the underbelly and the top, and I've been toying with the idea of doing them a single colour, but I think actually I am going to do the belly one colour. So come on, people out there. We've got a few people watching, not many, because it's one of those shows. I used Blood Angels Red for the helmet of my Sergeant and my Ultras. Love it so far. I was thinking of Walking Dead when you kept saying it. Right, okay then. So somebody give me some idea. What colour am I going to do these things? Just to put it in context then, the... yeah, so the dudes who are on it are in my sort of pearlescent armour effect that you've already seen. So that's the only really thing, and they've got black trousers on. That's the only thing that's going. So they're quite monochromatic, to be honest. In fact, the entire army turned out a bit monochromatic, except for when you start dropping on that sort of the mother of pearl colour that I did for the armour. So any suggestions? I definitely don't want to do greens because the other eels were green, and I want to try something different. This is disgusting. That looks quite cool though. Let's see if I can get that in there. I mean, from a colour spectrum point of view, from a contrast point of view, because the others are green, I was really tempted to go with either reds or blues. But I was worried reds would look a bit fire dragony. So I wondered if blue, with them being sea serpent. And then I thought, could I go really pale blue on the underbelly and a darker blue on the top? So for instance, you've got this ethermatic blue, which is the same colour as the coral actually. Okay, that might change my coral choice. The alternative was to go yellows. And, you know, because I've got this sort of Leandan yellow, which would look pretty disgusting, I thought. Even yellow and blue, what about that? Do you think that'd be... The problem is I've got such short time. I don't have a lot of time to experiment before this goes to hell. And I've already killed how much time I've got. Right, excuse the microphone because I'm just going to spin my paints up. I wonder how loud that is on microphone. Hopefully it's not too bad. Of course you're all wondering what the hell's going off there, aren't you? But I've got a vortex which stirs paints up in about 4 seconds like that. Which is what I really like. I'm such a sucker for that stuff. I love my vortexer. If you've not tried a vortexer for paints, you need it. Right. Let's go back to a bigger brush for this one. It's going to need to really load this one up. And if I remember rightly, this takes 2 coats. So this, I suppose, this will what the underbelly of the eel would be like if I kind of went the blues. I don't know. I can see a hair hanging out. Great. How does that happen? Almost pleasant. Right, Furious George says, what do you figure the chances at the tournament? Pretty poor. There's a couple of things that happened to the army along the way. One, new armies came out. You know, I think Slaanesh is going to dominate the tournament scene for the foreseeable. It's just so powerful what you can do with that army, and it just seems so well pointed at the moment. You know, that there's units of better abilities than I've got at the moment that are definitely pointed lower. So I think you'll see a lot of that. And then at the same time, Jack's army was very much driven around, our entire armies was driven around, aesthetically around Morathi and Voltornos. That's why we did the unified bases and those kind of things. And so that's what we were kind of planning on doing. And then, of course, General's Handbook came out and did quite a bit of damage to Daughters of Cain in terms of points values, because it hit him exactly where we didn't need it to hit him. It hit him in his troops, which pushed his 1,000-point list up into, if you include Morathi, really ineffective, which is a concern. So we're at that juncture point now. As hey, this was originally this entire army was about just showing up with a really cool looking army. You know, Iden of Deepkin, Daughters of Cain, unified bases. This in the fluff, you've got this collaboration between Voltornos and Morathi. So showing up side by side on similar bases, etc. We thought that would be really cool. I've really overloaded that, haven't I? We thought that would be really cool, and it still is cool. But the problem is to get them both in the army now. Voltornos is already quite bad, and we were kind of going, well, that's okay while ever Morathi's around, because you can afford to have one bad dude in there. You know, I mean, admittedly, is a point sink, but you know, it'll be okay. And then, of course, Morathi. Suddenly the support around Morathi isn't as good as well, and when you stand her on her own with such a low model count around her, there's a real risk that we've lost the competitive edge. But tournament's not just about going there to win. You know, well, I suppose it is really. That's the nature of a tournament. But what am I trying to say? It's also about having fun, isn't it? So we're going to go and we're going to have fun. We're going to test the new list we've built out with it's the daughters that have been impacted the most. Bear in mind that I was also hit by my eels going up by 20 points as well. So it got quite painful. Got quite painful basically. So yeah, we won't do well. Competitively, we won't do well. I'm hoping we have some fun though. That's what you really hope for, isn't it? At the end of the day, I'm getting through these. I'm getting through these a lot slower than if I was just concentrating on it though. But I figured it was worth doing a show just to say hello to everybody. 666 says Coleman, the number of the beast. Not loud at all, my brother says Frost and Fist. It's almost pleasant. And I don't know what 666 is about. Slaanesh grey for the belly and dark purple on the back. Yeah, you see, I was thinking purple, but I've gone purple with him, purple and yellow. So I don't want to do the same as him. And that will get darker, by the way. That's only the base coat. So, oh, and there's more. There's my corroded mother of pearl effect there. Look, see what you guys think to that. That took quite a bit of work actually, and I'm quite pleased with it. But we'll see. Lots of little pots and pans in the base as well. That base. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering how I can separate them out, so I can get to all of those to finish them off. So the column is just on a metal rod running up there, and he's not even attached as well. He's literally just holding himself on. You kind of thread the column through the tentacles, tails, whatever, and it holds itself on. I've definitely over-flooded that, Phil. What were you doing? Just not paying attention on how much paint was on the brush. Let's pick some of that off. Best army to take against Slaanesh are now dispossessed. Lots of one-wound models and hardly any heroes. So I'm assuming you're talking about the depravity points, isn't it? Because that's the mechanic for that army, I believe, is killing multiple wounds and heroes. Gained depravity points. I was chatting to Jap the other day, I think, during the point of the game, there was over 2,000 points of additional models summoned during the game, which is pretty painful, isn't it? I've just wandered off, by the way, to go get some Nuln Oil or Agrax Earthshade. There you go. So I've got a 50-50 mix of Agrax Earthshade already made up because it's one of my favourite ones. It's just a little bit more subtle. That's not going to work, Phil, because it's got the wrong base colour on. Let's come back to that then. So the other ones have had the Wraithbone base on, so I'm going to put that on there as well. We'll give that a spin up while we're chatting. Yeah, you can see that working. I mean, the other thing I was thinking is whilst I know that Fire Slayers would rack up a whole bunch of depravity points because of the 2 wounds, at the same time though they're also quite resilient to high damage output armies. But I say it with some hesitancy now because I just don't think they could handle some of the stuff that people are doing on lists now, which is just huge amounts of damage output in the first couple of turns. I know Liam's at work at the moment, but he's been test playing his Slanesh, and they've been playing very well in the test games from what I gather. We'll see. We'll have to just see at the moment because I've got basically Voltornos and I've got a Tidecaster. So I've got the option to move her into the command slot and reverse the tides, which would at least give me attacking first on turn 2, which I could try, but it does mean getting more into position. But again, now my army is predominantly eels at 1,000 points. It certainly won't be how I play them at 2,000 points, but so it's predominantly eels for the 1,000 point list. So it is kind of handy that they are. This is, by the way, if you're wondering why it's so thin, I've already watered this paint down. I'd rather do 2 thin coats in a very classic sense. So this will dry nice and smooth and I can get it on quickly because it just spreads around the model. And I know you have to go back and paint again, but I'd rather do that than kind of have too much texture to it. Although I'm being quite brutal with this, to be honest, because it's only a terrain piece on a base. It's not the model itself. And also I've got to get the army done by Friday, so the truth is I'm going to probably be quite brutal with the entire army. That'll do. Next coat. So, what's happening in the news front then? Have we had any? Of course, Apocalypse is just round the corner. What's the thought on movement trays for people out there? Because they seem to be having mixed emotions out there. There's a lot of Sigmar players that seem quite happy those movement trays are on the horizon. Official games, they're actually quite well priced. I was comparing them to, you know, some alternatives, and actually they've priced them quite well. The only issue is a lot of the tournament guys aren't liking them because of how far apart the models are based. Now bear in mind, Games Workshop have designed these for use in Apocalypse. They've not designed these to be used in Age of Sigmar. So, for instance, taking an objective requires you to have the maximum amount of models within 6 inches measured from the centre. And obviously if you've got a whole chunk of your army on movement trays spacing them out, you are not going to get that command of the space. So a lot of the tournament guys, their movement trays, their bases are literally back to back touching each other. Hey, you can't stay, I'm still at work. Wanted to say cheers and keep up the great work. Thank you very much, 12 Neef. Are you well? I trust you're well, but you're at work, so maybe I shouldn't ask questions because I'll just encourage you to respond then. Get back on with your work. He's still there actually, or at least he was 20 seconds ago. I always forget that the chat's quite well delayed with this stuff. Okay, so that's got that colour on there. That's good. That's going to need a bit of time to dry. Yep, it's definitely going to need a bit of time to dry. do I have a stab at one of the eels? I don't think I'll do that one. I need to do one that isn't. There you go. Might do this one. It's quite nice, actually. I quite like that. Where were we in the colours? We've had blue and... I need to decide. Green and yellow. That's what these guys are about. So these are green and yellow. I want them to stand out quite well. Let's have a look at what... I've not got the full range, so let's have a look. I've got the Leviathan blue. I've got the Griff Charger blue. That's what I was thinking, is those two. You've got quite a pale belly. And the Leviathan blue is the same. Actually, what is that colour, thinking about it? Because I don't think I've used it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That looks super intense. Oh my goodness me. That's mega intense. Oh, okay. So... that would be really quite dark. I do have this Achelian blue. And I've also got ultramarines, which is a bit messed up. Let me give that a shake. I'd rather go for those flat magnetic trays. They seem like a good idea to be able to push the models off when piling in. You're absolutely right. Those magnetic trays are brilliant. Yeah, I've seen, I think it was one of the chaps, Luke, was sent me some links to some. They're really good. I think they seem to be the most thing, except that you've got kind of a heavy metal tray at the bottom of your base, so not too bad. It's still not what I want. Leviathan blue. So we'd have that going into that. What do you think? What happens when you just mess the two up together? Let's mess them up together. See, I think that's the kind of blue I want, because that looks like the cloaks of my army. Do you think that's too obvious, or should I go for something a little bit less obvious? You know, this was the other option, was to do this horrible, horrible yellow. I wish I'd got a test piece, but I used all my bits. To make the models. Space Wolf Grey, Pterodon Turquoise. I've got the Space Wolf Grey, I think. Have I? No, I haven't. Yeah, they're so different, those two, aren't they? I'll just ruin them by mixing them together. Are those custom Achelian Ishlan Guard? Yes, they are. Yes, thank you. So yeah, here's the original eels, and here's my Ishlan Guard. So that's for the Morsar Guard. They're on the traditional eel. Because I like that, the idea that they kind of electric bio-shotty thing. Test on a spare skink. If they're eels, then yes. Crikey. Have I got something primed with the grey primer? Hold fast, folks. Nothing I really want to do. Oh my goodness me! I'd have to go away for about 2 minutes and spray the stuff outside. You know, fortune favours the bold. Blues. What else have I got? It's either blues. I don't want to do greens because the guys are in greens. Come on, let's just do a process of elimination. I think the yellows could be interesting. Kind of a yellow belly. Yellow belly. If it's a yellow belly, can you do blue on top, or is that just insane? See that yellow? I quite like that yellow. Do you do yellow? Just yellow. Look at that. It's quite nice. Let me grab a spare model. Okay, so I haven't got one primed in the grey, but it's not going to be a million miles. No, I don't like it. Well, it's quite pretty colour though, isn't it? That sure is pretty. But that's super yellow, and it'd be going on the grey, so it wouldn't be the same, would it? Test on a spare skink. You know what? We've got some skink shields, haven't we? if she doesn't mind multicoloured skink shields. I think I'm blue. I almost made the decision then. I don't want to do browns. I've got orange. It could be orange and yellow. So that's the other choice then, is orange into this yellow. Yeah, that's the choice at the moment. Orange and yellow. That would be an absolute contrast to the red and to the green and yellow, wouldn't it? Sort of thing. Because orange. Yeah. Oh, I hate indecision. I want them to really punch out. I want them to really stand out. And I'm worried if I do the blue, it's just not going to be very cool looking. I think I might have to spray a model. That's not great, I know. Yeah. Do you want to bear with me, guys, for 2 seconds? You just have to sing a little bit or something like that if you can. I'm just going to spray around the corner, which is really bad, isn't it? Hold 5. I'm literally going to choke to death. Oh man, I've oversprayed it and everything. Right, okay, let's do some chat while we're waiting for that. That's going to dry. It stinks to high heaven, the grey primer. If you haven't used it, I certainly wouldn't recommend using it indoors. That's a really foolish idea. But at least I've got a bit of a model now. The main, that's a dude who lost all his necks. I was actually thinking that's still a nice looking model, even without the extra heads. So I might just, like, you know, do all that and sculpt it down there and just have it as some weird sea beastie. So that's what I'm thinking about that, because I kind of like that model. Thing is, with the stream delays, Phil is actually back in now. That was true, actually. For these, so are these for the tournament this weekend? Jude, yes, they are. Yeah, I know that's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? Because as I was saying, I've got so many models on the desk that aren't finished that I just need to get them done. But the good news is I've taken some time off with Jack Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Jack wants to get some hobby done and some gaming done. So it enables us to do a little bit of test gaming because we've not done that for a while. Oh yeah, right, Jack is who I'm playing with, and Jack is bringing his daughters. So that's his Marathi that he's been working on. So it's pretty cute looking Marathi. I quite like it. And if you'll notice, we got all the little fishes on the base and stuff because we've put the two armies together. So there's my Voltornos and there's Marathi. And the idea was, look, you can kind of put them together and they almost make like a set piece. You know, that was the idea. I really like his Marathi. I think he did a sterling job. She's so difficult to handle though, it's ridiculous, that model, but it is beautiful. I've seen people using the bottom half for a Keeper of Secrets, which I think so is just amazing looking. Oh my god, that stinks to high heaven. And it's really tacky, so I could do with just getting the hairdryer on it. You know what, this is a hobby session, so hold on to your ears, folks. Oh, I wish I didn't do that, it's quite warm. Right, it's a hobby session. You signed up for this as much as anybody. Okay, let's get back to this then. Here we go. So, I've only got this one neck section. So, I'm going to work as best as I can. So, let's go with my instinct, which at the moment my instinct is Griff Charger and... the other one. I don't think it was the Leviathan, so it was the Achelian. So Griff Charger and Achelian. This is what we'll start with, okay? So Griff Charger for the belly, Achelian for the top. They look really dark and close to each other. I'm going to start at the bottom down here. So this is the Griff Charger. Makes it, actually, you know what? I actually quite like that because it makes it look quite sickly and pallid, which is almost what I want them to look like, is deep sea nonsense. And there's always something a little bit sickly about deep sea creatures, isn't there? So, you guys seeing that? I actually think that works quite well. I could make it a little bit more subtle, but I don't think I need to because The detailing on these necks is much shallower, so I don't mind it being that strong. Right, and then the which one's this one? Is that Leviathan? No. Okay. I'm getting somewhere. Slightly worried I actually used the wrong colour. But, you know, that's really strong. Very intense. Oh man, could I just cheat? Let's cheat my way to getting this done for the tournament. I definitely need to let that dry, look. Okay. That's what the break looks like before the two run into each other. Oh, Frost and Fist says, gorgeous work, Jack. Jack's not here. He's gone off. He decided he's feeling pretty tired tonight, so he's gone off to relax in front of his Xbox. But I will certainly pass on the well wishes. I might be sold on this. It's this transition here. Let me zoom in on it. Wow, 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 wow. So it's that transition between the two that I'm really liking. And they do have that. But they're quite dull, aren't they? Can I live with that? Actually, it's brighter in real life than it is showing up on the camera. Not sold on these two. Thanks, Coleman. But to be honest, I've never seen you happy, so I'm not sure I can attain a standard where you'd be pleased with that. He's gonna kill me for that, isn't he? Let's try yellow and yellow. How bad does that get? Hey, there's some interesting models you got. Thank you, Vaughan. Right, so this is Iliandan yellow. So I'm quickly going to run out of space for this. So this is, you know what? That's quite bright. I quite like that because I was after this kind of contrasty effect. In fact, I'm going to do twice as much in Iliandan yellow because I'm going to try it with an alternative top on one side. Okay, so, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot I zoomed in so much. Oh, wrong way, Phil. So that's the yellow. That's working. And for the top, let's try two. So we've got this. I don't think that was the Yandan yellow. No, yeah, it was. Okay. And now we've got the Nasdreg yellow. So I'm going to see if we go yellow and yellow. What do you think, guys? Could always go like towards an orange at the top, couldn't it? Do you think? You know what? One thing I haven't thought. I'm only happy meeting you in person, says Coleman. I've got 2 units of 3 for this. So that complicates matters. The 2 units don't need to be identical. I could do one in the crazy yellows and I could do one in the crazy blues. And we're all happy then. That's drying really nice though, that blue. I have to say that's looking good as it dries, but this is the problem. You have to be careful with these things. Let's try the orange. So we've got the Griffhound orange. Just do the top. Just do the top black. Oh, no, not black. No. I want them to punch out. Whoa. My boy lollipop. Do. Yeah, that feels a bit sweet and sugar candy, doesn't it? Yeah, no. That, except it's ruining it because it's running into it, I quite like that. They look quite sickly. I think that might be the starting point for one unit, and then if I cow it out, I'll go with the blue on the other unit. Isn't Yellow Belly someone who's scared? Yeah, maybe, but not my guys. Don't like the orange. That's too lollipop-ish. I like those two, and I like those two at the moment because I like the transition between the two colours. As that's dry and look, that looks pretty cute. So much so, I'd probably start with the blue first and then have an idea of how it's looking. Well, I haven't really got many more colours unless I go with green or greys or browns, which I don't particularly want to do any of those. And I do have this Leviathan blue, so before we go any further, let's just see how mental that is on these back scales, because I know what the belly's going to turn out like. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, I don't even know what's happening there. It's almost not behaving like a contrast paint. Oh, it is. I've just gone way too thick with. Ooh. Okay, that's serious. I'm guessing that's a purple. Somebody tell me, because I'm purple-blue colourblind, but to me, I know I'm purple-blue colourblind, so in theory I can't tell, but some colours just look purple to me from experience rather than being able to visually see them. That looks like a purple. There's a Putting models down into paint is about. This is only a test model, guy. That's why it's got stripy. That's why it's got stripy next. Yeah. I get your point though. Normally, it's not a good idea. In fact, I might even give myself a clean palette at the end of this. I quite like this sickly yellow. I haven't got green, yellow, blue. Right. I'm going to do a unit in the blue. And then I'm going to make... Oh, man. It looks so nice, though. Kind of. Kind of not, though. Kind of doesn't work. Am I just being a bit boring and going for the muted colours? Dark blue, not purple. Oh, well. Like I say, I am purple-blue colourblind, so what would I know? Right. What have we got? I need to make a decision, folks. I need to make a decision. Tim Burton does Warhammer. I'm just going to get rid of that palette page, because it's got mess all over it, and I'm just going to get myself in trouble with it. I'm going to go with blues. I'm starting with blue, so let's just do this right before I go too far. I know that he's a leader, so I need him. He's a musician, and the rubbish one for the banner bearer. There you go. So, crikey. I feel like I need a better brush. I was using some rubbish old brush. I might just need something with a bit more control. And what am I going to start with? Let's start with this one because I don't like it. Okay. What have we gone with? So, Griff, bit of Griff on the belly. Okay. So, I think I'll definitely do underneath the neck. That's going to get some. Underneath the chin. Again, I'm going to have to work quite quick with this army, because those of you who know the tournament's literally just around the corner, so I'm not going to obsess too much about these. I can always come back to them, because this paint's so thin anyway. It's not going to kill any detail. And I can always, you know, paint over it. And, oh dear me. Bit shiny, this paint, isn't it? That's not very good, is it? It's the problem if you handle these models too much, and I did some sculpting on top, so that's not good. And because I've done some sculpting on top, I've kind of polished the paint a bit. That's frustrating. Before I go on with any of the other ones, I'm going to give them a wipe down with some isopropanol, just to take any grease that's on the surface off. There's a lesson to be learned, isn't there? It's sticking once you make a couple of passes with it. It's just not. Yeah, as soon as you've got something to kind of hold that surface tension up. Wow, that's way too much. I get far too carried away with this paint. So much for one thick coat. Although I know that's what you're meant to do in it, you know. Because it still dries a lot subtler than it looks. I think the problem is I can't help glazing with them. Which is not really what you're meant to be doing, is it? I just find myself kind of working it back all the time. Rather than just thinking, hey, let's see what that turns out like when it dries. My boy. Oh no, I'm singing now. I can't do that. That's the problem with hobby shows when you're on your own. You just start rambling on to yourself, don't you? Need more people in the chat to keep me awake. Do I have a paint shaker? Yes, I do have a paint shaker. Do you want me to try and show it you? It's vulgar. So I've got a Vortex paint shaker. I don't know whether that's not going to work actually. Here, I can't lift it up. I tell you what, I'll send a link to it. But basically, it's a scientific. It's a piece of lab equipment called a Vortex shaker, and what it's done is for stirring test tubes. But the test tube, the thing that it fits in is exactly the same size as the bottom of these bottles. So you can just drop the bottle in and it shakes the paint up in about 4 seconds. By the way, because this is really thin, this paint, but that's how it goes on. This is the Griff Charger, and when I first used it, I then went straight back to the shaker and gave it like 10 minutes, thinking I just hadn't stirred it up enough, but no, that's how it looks. I'm definitely feeling the fear that I've taken the coward's approach with these eels, but we'll see. Let's get that in there. Not too worried about the trend. This is less smooth, so I'm hoping that. I still forgot to wipe it down though. Good God, I'm not concentrating today. There's more scales and stuff going off here, so it's clinging to this better anyway. This underbelly. I have to be careful. Like, hidden underneath that lump of sand there is actually the neck of the jaw, if you like, the start of the jaw, because that's actually just another neck reversed over in my little sea serpentine approach. Oh, that's interesting. I think I've actually gone too far with the underbelly there. That's okay. That's foolish of me. I've gone too high with that. By one row of scales. Give me a second, folks. I mean, the other colour's a lot darker anyway, but I just want to scrub that back. There you go. Don't worry about that when I get to it. I just didn't want them to be double shaded. There you go. Try and get behind the. And as I said, I've definitely got to do a bit more sand texture there, because if you look, that's actually the thickening part of the head. So I'll build sand up there, but that's okay. I'm happy to do the sand texture after I've finished the model off anyway. I mean, normally as well, I'd work on models before they're based. You know, the eels were all done separately to their bases and then stuck on afterwards. But in this instance, the base is kind of almost an integral part of the model, because in some I heated the plastic up and bent it in as hard as I could, and then glued it. You know, held it slightly bent while it was gluing. So you know, and to that extent, then the base is holding the model together, or at least holding it in its pose. It's quite cute, this paint, isn't it? I like it. It's instant, it's vulgar, but you know, it will hopefully mean I get my armies close to done. I think I can probably have some fun with this membrane in the tail, so maybe this is where I can alternate them. So if I'm doing the other ones in yellows for fun, to bring the two units together, if If I'm going to do the other ones in yellows, I will do a blue membrane on the tail. On this one, I'll do a yellow membrane on the tail. Who knows? We'll see whether that will work. Goodness me, that actually took a lot longer than I was hoping. Okay, so next deal. I'm going to let them dry though, so I'm not going to put the second colour on until I'm pretty confident, you know, that's in place. Otherwise, that's dry. Otherwise, I'll have some of the stuff that was happening earlier where the colours are running into each other. And I really do want separation of colour, basically. Yeah, I get a little bit over enthusiastic when I wipe that stuff out. Put that back in for a little bit. Woo! Off you go to one side, crazy eel. What does it say there? Would you advise on a ball bearing in the bottle that goes in the shaker or not needed? Definitely a ball bearing. Because the way the vortex works is it kind of rattles from side to side at something like 2,500 revs a minute, so it spins around like crazy. And as you can see, what the ball does, I think you should be able to hear that, is that kind of starts spinning as well. In fact, there's a good example here. So here's a good example. Look, this is actually drying retarder for a Minotaur, basically, and as you can see, I've got a ball in there. So let's just give that a second on the vortexer and see if this. Okay, it's getting there. Of course, it's not showing. So yeah, I was trying to do. It actually creates a vortex inside the bottle, but of course, it's not doing it on that one. Of course, it wouldn't. Why would it? Why would it? That's just because I wanted to show it. So that's never going to work, is it? Let's try that one. Yeah, here we go. So let's see. Is that still spinning? Yeah, I think it is. You just saw it. Just did go away. So it creates a vortex inside the bottle, which is all well and good, but what tends to happen is all that thick stuff in the bottom corners of the bottle don't move because you've got like a conical vortex, for want of a better word. So that ball just kind of smashes all of that bottom up. It doesn't spin up the bottle, it kind of stays at the bottom, just kind of smashing all the sediment up. So definitely worth it in my book. There's a necessarily long answer. Yes, I advise on the ball in the bottom. To be honest, I kind of put them in anyway. I've got a couple of sets. These are the beefy ones. So these are 6.3 millimeters from Green Stuff World, and I put those in the really thick paints. And then, oh, here we go. I think these are AK Interactive stainless steel balls, and they're a bit smaller. And to be honest, for things like washers, does it say the measurement there? It doesn't. They're about 4 mil. But for washers and these contrast paints, that's perfectly fine. You don't need more than that. So it just enough to agitate the bottom, basically, as you're stirring. Right. How are we doing for time? Oh my goodness, it's 10 o'clock already. Do you guys want to hang around long enough for me to get the second colour on one of these eels? Or are you not bothered? You tell me whether you want me to keep broadcasting. I know this is not the most exciting show in the world because it's just me doing some hobby, but you know, if you're out there doing some hobby, then maybe together we could do some hobby. I'm just gonna. You're wondering what I'm doing there. Basically, I've just put some isopropanol very gently onto a cotton bud, and I'm very gently wiping it down just to try and get rid of some of the grease, because there's clearly some grease on the model. And the reason there's grease on the model is I've been sculpting these saddles, basically. So the only plastic bit is that bit and that bit. The rest is sculpted. Obviously these nets are plastic, but this is green stuff, that's green stuff. This little tail back here is green stuff, and these straps underneath the neck are green stuff as well. So I'm by no means a decent sculptor, but I've done my best on them, and I think I could have done better if I'd have had more time, but the way you'd need to do that is almost do one a night, and I needed to do 6 in the space of about an hour. So they were all sculpted as fast as my little fingers could push green stuff around. EM Keen, background noise of Phil rambling is always welcome. Oh, bless. Right, where are we going? That's working, look. I think that's fine, and it's better Better now I've just hit it with a bit of isopropanol, so I'm not getting those issues that I was getting where it was tiding away from the model. That's interesting, that, because that's just the standard primer, but because I've been handling it, there's clearly finger grease, and I've been handling it quite a lot because I've been sculpting those. And I know it looks like there's primer on, but I primed the whole model because originally I got this crazy idea that the riders were going to be stood on the back of them, you know, kind of like riding them like a surfboard, like the Silver Surfer. It looked awful, so that's why they were kind of sculpted in absence of, plus, oh, the other thing is I didn't have any saddles, so that's always you know, informs your decision over what you you know, how confident are you at sculpting. So originally I was like, no, I don't think I'd do a very good job sculpting the saddles, so I will just have them stood on the back and holding onto a rein. But it really looked awful. It just didn't work at all. So yeah, I gave up on that, which is a shame. The idea was sound, it was just the execution was dreadful. Well, maybe the idea was dreadful as well, you know. Probably, thinking about it. I've got some sand texture all over that. Does that matter? Nah. Not at this stage of the game. I'm meant to be gaming with these in about 3 days, so... I wish this was only the only part of the army I need to get done. You've got so much to do. Voltornos's mount is only base coloured. The base for the Voltornos is barely 2/3 of the way there. I've kind of set myself a challenge. Basically what I've said is these eels have got to have their base colours on tonight, and the crews need their base colour on tonight, so that's not going to happen. I'm just going to admit that now, because it's already quite late, isn't it? So I'll tell you what, new target. These eels need to have their colours on now, tonight. That's the new target. Oh, it's getting really warm in here. Should we talk about the weather for a bit? So, out there, who's listening in, who's actually coming to the tournament then? Because I definitely saw there's at least one person out there. Coleman, I still think that you should do the tournament. I think tickets are still available. I could be wrong. You've got no excuse not to show up. I've really got to get rid of that dog hair. You've got no excuse not to show up. Just come along to the tournament. It'll be fun. You can take your dispossessed and show everybody how great they are against Slaanesh. I'm really worried about Slaanesh. I think I've got a bit of a mental block about them. You know, you kind of... Has anybody fought against Slaanesh out there? And how did they do? I've spoken to a couple of people who beat them. And you have to work the objectives super hard, because they're just removing armies from the table. I'm off camping this weekend. Well, camp in Nottingham. 2 birds, 1 stone. There you go. Belly of that one done. Put it to one side. It dries really nice, actually. I'm just going to bring this other one back in. Look, I actually quite like how that's looking. Quite like this kind of pale effect that we've got going. Oh, Vaughn's in Arizona? Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. It's a bit far. It's a bit far. I really wish I could do a US tour for gaming. That would be a load of fun. I'd love to do that. I'd love to come and play some of the events as well. But I mean, I'd be dreadful, but you guys are so super switched on with your tournament scene, but I'd still like to have a go. Right, we're almost getting there. I haven't worked out what I'm going to do about those M pieces. And bear in mind that all I'm doing right now, this isn't the finished, this isn't the finished coat. Oh, Phil. What did you forget to do? You know what you forgot to do. A little bit of isopropanol on the cotton bud, Phil. Degrease your model. Degrease your model, Phil. Best thing about isopropanol is it's basically 100% alcohol. So you don't need to dry it. Look, it just evaporates pretty much as soon as you finish rubbing it on. So I quite like, and it leaves no residue at all, which is the real benefit of it. So you can use it just to wash a model down like that and get straight back onto painting. And there's no soapy residue or anything like that. Which of course why a lot of people use it for the final clean of the airbrush. And by the way, it's actually great for cleaning your normal brushes, as long as you don't leave them in there too long. I've revived many a brush with isopropanol. Move it under that belly. That was an absolute pain to bend, that one. That was underneath a heat gun. I've got my heat gun just to one side here. That was underneath the heat gun, and I'd wrapped foil around the spikes to protect them from the heat, which worked actually. I was surprised, and I just got it hotter and hotter and hotter and kept squeezing it, and it kind of bent. But I had to keep heating the thing up as a whole. You have to be careful because it's a really fine line. If it gets too hot, all that happens is the plastic just goes and shrinks, or you lose all the detail. It melts on the surface. So it's kind of doing it. You don't put the heat gun directly on. You warm the whole thing up. And, you know, so I had it inside a little box where I was just blasting the heat across it, trying to almost bake it. And I just got it enough for a tiny bit. I didn't need a lot. I just needed to bend a little bit of the neck there. But my God, it was a piece of effort. Right. Gone very quiet. You guys got quiet as well. It's that time of night. Oh no. I thought I'd finished. I celebrated way too early there. Right. Okay. That is good. Where are we at? Frost and Fists. That would be epic. I'd love to come and see you guys, definitely. That would be a load of fun. Yeah, that would be great. Right, which one did I do first? I've already mixed them up. Okay, here we go. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the top coat on this, and we're going to have a look at what it looks like. And depending on what time it is, I might just push on without the camera on, or not. So this is a Kellyan green. Now I've been using a Kellyan green for all sorts of stuff, but in every instance I've been watering it down. So this will be the first time I'm going full on. Just guide it around there. I'll tidy that up in a bit. We'll come back to that. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do those head crests a different colour. So, yeah, let's not worry about that for now, because I can always just... I'd rather get that contrasted, and then I will touch back up. That'll be hand painted with layer paints, if you know what I mean. So I'm not too concerned about that. Let's get that jawbone in. That's Chapter Master Valric. How are you doing, sir? It's been a while since we had a chat. Be good to catch up. So yeah, I'm painting. It's a hobby session, dude. That's what I'm doing tonight, rather than a rambling chat. It is quite late, and I'm doing these weird eel proxies for my Iden of Deepkin. There you go. All in time for a tournament on Friday. No, Saturday. Oh, what am I thinking? Why did I think this would be a good idea? You know, right up until about a week ago, I'd already given up on this idea. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take my what am I trying to say? Take my fire slayers. And then something triggered. Oh, I know what it was. It was the sad disappointed look on my son's face. Because he was like, oh, Dad, we were doing these two armies together. And, you know, and he had a point, actually, because we're going to do a tournament later in the year but it's unlikely we'd use these two armies. There's bound to be some nonsense out by then, isn't there? You know, I'm hoping Caradrons are coming out soon, as in the new Caradron Overlord book, because that's my army in a box. There we are. Army in a box. So in other words, that army that you bought pretty much over a period of time, doesn't have to be all in one go, and is still in a box. What's your army in a box? Has anybody got one? Mine is Caradron Overlord. And up until a bit back it was actually Iden of Deepkin. So I'm glad to be painting one of my armies in a box. Yeah, not quite sure what to do about that. Keep going though, keep going, Phil. I think I might have to paint the horns in a different colour anyway. It's not sticking to it anyway, but yeah, that, you know, it's looking okay. It's not looking... the colours are far more vibrant than it looks like on my preview. That's the only thing I would say, is if you guys are thinking that's a really dull colour, the colours are way more vibrant on my screen than on my screen, rather. Yeah, I think, look, I can't, you know, I think you have to make sure you're following that line, because that's what makes this scheme work. Is you kind of like jutting in and out rather than just a straight line down there. I'm slightly concerned that I'm getting more of this greasiness on the model where I've been handling it. Come on, let's just do the other side before just get rid of that bit of grease off the model there. So again, if you've just tuned in, it's because I did some post-priming conversion work. And what it's resulted in doing is a lot of grease getting onto, a lot of hand grease. In fact, actually, it's not really just hand grease. I mean, bear in mind I was doing green stuff work, so I probably had Vaseline to smooth the surface out as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of that kicking off in there as well, which would explain why it's very much refusing to play ball. Okay, I think we've got a sense for it. Yep, they're really dull. I'm definitely going to do the other three in that crazy yellow. I want some exciting looking sea serpents too. They look really dull. My Mechanicus army is mostly in boxes, says Vaughan Killian. Whispers, Hail, Hydra. Oh, brilliant. Evening, very long time since I managed to see the social. Karanis, how you doing, man? Good to see you. So, wow, we've got some blasts from the past. Chapter Master Valric, Karanis as well. And Vaughan says, my Mechanicus army is mostly in boxes. Nice. Nice that you've owned up to it, though. That's the main thing, you know, you just... At least you've admitted it's there in boxes. Yeah, mine is definitely the silver. The Caradron Overlords. I need to get onto those at some point. That, you see, that row is actually the last scale. Just jumble in and out like that, let them catch it. It'd be good. That's where I went wrong when I did the underneath of it. Okay. It's not terrible. I mean, the main thing is they've got paint on them, which is what they need to do before they show up to the tournament. You know, because they can't go to a tournament grey. And I'll work this, you know, this is just the first coat, and even if I don't get them done any further than this for the tournament, as in I don't get to revisit it, I will come back and work on these, because I quite like the conversion. I'm just having to rush the paint job really, but I'd rather I got my conversion right than rush the conversion and then, you know, to make more time for the painting and be painting models that ultimately I'm unsatisfied with. Told you these two didn't work. I don't have an army in the box. My 130 Arcanauts are built. Oh my god. Piranha says I have multiple army in boxes. Aha. Stormcast, Ironjaws, Eldar, Tau, Blood Angels, to name a few. Oh, the horror. The horror. So you're going to try and get some done then? How do you get from army in a box to army on a table? Isn't that what these paints were meant to be about? You can do it. We're getting there. We're getting there. I actually it's growing on me, this scheme. I'm definitely going to do the other 3 in yellow though, because I might as well do 2 units, different colours. Why not? Who says sea serpents all have to be the same colour? Yeah, I've got a feeling they look good, but they're very subdued. But I think I can do something about that, sort of post-production. Wow, I had to really concentrate there. It's hard to talk and paint. Sam was always much better at that than me. There you go. There you go. There you go. 1 eel done. I quite like that. I like how those 2 colours work together. I think that's great. And I think when I get the sand on, because we've got this sand texture look, I think that's going to help the model quite a bit. And then when we get the colours on it, and we can do this headdress in some like bright crazy ass colour that's done now. We get the saddle painted. I think that'll be fine. That'll be good. You know what? I've just put it down, and I'm happy with it. When you actually see it on the table, I think that looks cool. Yeah, I'm good. At the moment, I'm doing a Maggotkin army. Sweet. I really like Maggotkin. Furious George says not an army, but I've got all. Is that all the Shadespire? Where has it gone? All the Shadespire boxes. Shadespire boxes still sealed. It's very cool though, Shadespire. I wish I'd kind of got into it. You know, I'm probably going to revisit Shadespire when this tournament's out of the way. Just really need to get rid of the greasiness off this model. It's frustrating me. You have to be careful with isotope though, by the way, because it does also. Oh god, that model's not actually dry. I was way too ambitious there with the drying times. Okay, I've actually touched that. I can touch that up though. That's the whole point of having the base colour in the pot, isn't it? Let me see. That one's better. That one's dry. So let's just give it a rub down. And get the colour on this one, and then might call the show a night. In fact, what time is it? You've seen me paint one of these. Maybe I'd be better not rushing it and let this paint completely dry as well, because it's not actually dry. So there you go. Let's revisit this one. I'm going to hold it up to the other camera, because I think you might get a better sense of the colour. Turn that off. Does that work? So let's see if that's going to. It's too. You can kind of see though how different the paint is. Let me see if I can do that. Look, there you go. So that will give you a better sense. Can I do that? There you go. As I was saying, it's a little bit more contrasted than it looked on the overhead camera. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Where are we at with questioned? At the moment I'm doing Maggotkin, we did that one. I'm licking my brush. My Ultras and my Knights have both been started, but they're mostly in boxes. Yeah, well, you know, as long as you've made the start, I think that's what 9 Temps is. It's about. Karanis, can I ask? I've not seen Sam on for a long time. No, well, Sam he moved away, I'm afraid. So, yeah, Sam had a change of circumstance and moved away. And as such, he's been on a few of the live chats and stuff. He's joined me on a few of the live chats. But the reality is he's not an active member of Wargamer Online right now. He's got a whole bunch of other stuff going off in his life that he's focusing on. So, but you know, you see him every now and then. He drops in the chat actually on some of these live shows, and I've also had him on some of the live shows as well, chatting away in the background. So, but he's not really set up at the moment where he is. Certainly for he's doing hobby. He's got hobby set up now, so he's back on with his hobby, and he's been posting up some of the progress shots as well, and they're looking absolutely amazing. Because he's working on his human Caradron Overlord Skyfleet type thing, and that just looks absolutely stunning. And then, what else is he working on? No, I think that's mainly, he started on this kind of Nighthaunt army as well. He was working on that, but he's focused on his Caradrons. And he was going to be at the tournament, but I think his partner dropped out basically, so I think he's coming along to the next one, which I probably secretly is quite happy about because it gives him more time to get his Caradron Overlords done to absolute amazing gold standard army. So there's your answer. It's blue. Looks much better on the main camera. Yeah, this camera, it's really dull for some reason. I think I've got a bit of a problem with the camera, so it might be time to swap that camera out at some point. I'm going to say goodnight to you folks because I just need to get on with these things. And I doubt there's going to be a Monday Musing next. There might be because we'll be fresh back from the tournament. So there might be a Monday Musing. Depends what happens. It depends how mental the tournament is. I might do some random live broadcasts from the weekend because so I've just noticed I've got 2 pots of contrast paint there that I didn't even know I had. You know, so would have been worth knowing. So yeah, well, I might do some crazy nonsense live over the weekend or something. You know, broadcast from a mobile phone. If anything exciting happens at the tournaments, we'll keep you posted on the community Facebook group or on the actual forum on the website as well. So there you go. Right, thank you very much all for joining me tonight. I know it was a bit of a random show, just doing some hobby, but sometimes I just need to get my hobby done too. So there you go. Good night, folks. And if I can find the mouse, I will see you next week. Cheers all.